with the competitive mode, that would be fantastic. But speaking of that, we are going to get into the games. Here is the pick and ban for game number 1.
Let's see how this pick and ban interacts with the meta we've seen with some of the teams at the top of the table. A lot of Kindred priority recently, as early as first round on the red side. We haven't seen first pick Kindred, maybe once, but you imagine it's a growing trend as you're already bobbing your head to our sick champion select music.
Every time.
MVP own most of the direction of the champ select, as red side often is forced to ban away Aatrox, Taliyah, and also the Nocturne. But noticeably, when MVP played a couple of days ago, they got to play both Taliyah and Nocturne, as BBQ Oliver's tried to leave things open to try to make it work. I don't think SKT are going to do that.
Yeah, BBQ at this point, they're just trying anything that can make it happen. Of course, Faker win. Some Chinese fans that came down today showing some Korean skill as well on their fan signs.
SpoTV uploaded a really funny interview with Bang and Faker, 10 questions, 10 answers in English. Doesn't have the entire subtitles of what they're saying in Korean, but obviously the interview is largely in English. So if you want to see that, it's on the SpoTV Games YouTube channel. I tweeted about it. You can definitely find us out on Reddit, so get out there if you want to watch something a bit fun. But if you want to look at the business right now says that SKT have banned the normal stuff. First pick when it's MVP could be the Sejuani for Yondu, unless he wants to go a different direction. Speaking of different directions, this would be the herald of some dodgy stuff, some funnels, some new things. They're going to hover it, but lock in the much more reliable flex pick Swain.
Yeah. Swain moving up in a big way in the tier list, but the other pick that you mentioned is the Kindred that is so high on the tier list right now. It's almost always pick in the first 2 picks that red side gets, and they're going to snatch that up here for Blank, so he gets to get a little bit more aggressive and jungle control on the Kindred pick.
Did play the Kindred for the first time in pro play for the year in the last series that SK Telecom played. It was against Hanwha Life Esports. So he's getting there. He's getting there. He's playing a bit of it. We'll see how he looks on it today. They did win that game, playing around the Galio. And you wonder if Galio will just be locked in for Faker for the millionth time in recent history. On the MVP side, though, that's a first-round Soraka, so they're thinking the Morgana is going to be in the bot lane. Let's see what they want to pair it up with.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
I think that the Morgana is going to be down there. The Gragas, you see every once in a while here. Pretty good at just... it usually goes with the Yasuo that you see later because it's very good at knocking people up and having that last breath happen, but they ban
here we go. We got a Rumble coming out on the side of SKT, and the reason why I'm excited, the way this draft has gone, it's SKT saying we want Morgana. MVP says it's probably support Morgana, and Soraka does really well against support Morgana and even carry Morgana early game in the laning phase. MVP, if it's to be a top lane Gragas, the EU NA tech is that Rumble beats Gragas in the top lane. That's the big thing that's come through. So Rumble into Gragas is what SKT have taken in the first round. It is also worth noting that we see a lot of Rumble around the world, even Smite mid lane Rumble to try to counter funnel comps because Rumble can interact with them from very long range. And as a very cheap build to become relevant, so 813 Rumble, that magic pen, the higher base damage on the ultimate. Rumble's a champion near and dear to my heart, so happy to see it, but not from Smeb this time. It's going to be Tal.
It's interesting, the fan side we had, it's like if you're not willing to cheer for the team when they're down and out, when they're losing, then don't cheer for them when they're winning. It's a thing that hasn't been said about SKT in a while to see them down here in the dumps. But that fan, she gets it. She's still here, even when they're having some trouble.
I always love to see those fans tweeting at me saying, regardless of results, I'm still there with SKT. See it a lot more in traditional sports than esports, and you imagine if Faker ever left the team, they would lose a lot of their fan base as well. Fickle nature of fans in general, but esports is a little bit different to those traditional sports. So we're waiting to see the final ban here from MVP. Still waiting on a mid laner from SKT.
Got to think about how many fans of SKT might have just hopped ship over to the Griffin boat that's right next to them, right?
Or even Kingzone a little while ago when they started coming up. So yes, fans are fickle. We know this, Valdez. Pick and ban can also be fickle. SKT needs some beef. They don't have a lot of it, and they'd be going for a very squishy comp. Seem to be very clearly saying, hey, Galio last pick will definitely make this draft better. But now we have both the Rumble and the GP, so the mid lane Rumble I was speaking about getting a little bit more possible.
Yeah, definitely seems like a possibility here. And yeah, put Tal maybe on something that's not as aggressive as the Rumble. Just let him sit back, try not to make too many mistakes on the gangplank. I like that idea a little bit more.
It could still be neither Faker's Rumble or Faker's gangplank. There could be crazy stuff going on when it comes to a bot lane pick into Swain, but it won't be Swain bot lane. It will be the Ezreal coming through, a standby for Pilot. This is another one of those drafts where I don't think the players knew what they were playing till very late in the piece. As why not a Kled to roll in?
Hey, well, you could just throw that Gragas into the jungle, maybe the Kled, and the Swain can fight over mid or the top lane.
So let's talk about what the teams wanted and what they're not getting. Rumble beats Gragas. Gragas now in the jungle. What does this mean for the entire draft? We're waiting to make sense of it. Final pick here for SKT. Could be a bot laner, a support, for example. It could be so many different things. This would be Morgana and Shen bot lane, and then we'll see where the lanes actually go. Faker has played the mid lane GP before. The Rumble mid would be a new one for him, and it's going to be locked in. So most likely, it's going to be Shen bot, but Shen was also seen as a winning lane into Kled back at MSI 2017 when he was last a top laner. So there's a lot of different possibilities what's going on here, but expect it to be a Morgana Shen in the bot lane. And would this actually be the mid lane Rumble from Faker? It'd be a new one.
Please give it to us. I mean, Faker has played so many unique picks, actually, in this season, in the summer. Lots of 1 losses, about 7 different champions there. 1 wins on Poppy, Talia, Aatrox as well. So he's tried a lot of different things. He's thinking about Smite Rumble in the mid lane, and there it is. Here we go.
Smite Rumble, like I mentioned, you see this over in some other regions. Very good way to interact with funnels. Another new Smite mid laner. Rumble always had a pretty fast clear. Even after the nerf to Q cooldown, you can Q the Raptors, Smite the big one, and clean them pretty quickly. So SKT the first to reveal the Smite Rumble.
That's very nice. Just with all the funnel compositions, you just notice that the extra XP and the ability to just steal camps, farm camps, you don't necessarily need that extra summoner. You can just take the Smite and a Smite item in the mid lane and just use that to roam around and have a bigger map effect while also getting yourself ahead. So amongst all the craziness of patches 8.11 through 8.13, new things get revealed along the way.
And we'll talk about the draft as it evolves in-game. A lot of different counterpoints here. So many different flex picks that, honestly, it took 5 on each side for them to fully understand where to put everyone. ADD back on the Kled. Kled top lane. Could potentially run over the GP or be a farm lane for the GP. This should be a fun one, and blank on Kindred. That's going to be a fun one to see as well.
Yeah, definitely got some eyes on him in the jungle, on the Kindred. We'll see if he can live up to Spirit this time around. Let's jump into game number 1, SKT versus MVP. You were talking about how MVP, they're always going to have their big group of fans that is going to come down, but it sounded like the cheerleader was the same person screaming her head off. The one person here tonight for MVP.
Hey, there's still game 2. I guarantee it gets louder for game number 2, but they did their absolute best. As watching here, as everybody meets around. We have nameplates off. That's weird. We don't usually have nameplates off, right?
No, that's not normal.
All right, well, we lost the nameplates, guys. Sorry about that.
Somebody fixed that. Paging producer. Nameplates are off. Well, nice little ward there. Going to spot and see where that Kindred is starting. Definitely very important to know where Kindred is going, especially because of the marks and where she's going to put her pressure on.
Smite Rumble, getting a leash from the Morgana. So the big thing about Rumble with Smite, think of the other Smite mid laners we see. We think of Aatrox, we think Talon, which was banned in the draft here. Very fast ability to hit both the Raptors and the Wolves and clear them with Smite on the big camp. Helpful to have 3 levels so you can actually overheat easier, but this is all about getting a fast level 6. That's one of the other reasons why the Smite Rumble can be powerful. I mentioned it against Funnel. In a scenario like this, if you just get a super fast level 6, Rumble's equalizes among the best ultimates in the game, at really any point in the game. So getting it early really allows you to start skirmishing strong, and Kindred can start something the Rumble can end with the orbital strike of the equalizer.
Yeah, and it's Faker too, so this isn't just your random average top laner that's trying out his Rumble. It's Faker trying to come in here and secure the mark here. Will this might come in for Blank? Yes, it will. He gets his first mark on the top side.
And we get something too. The nameplates are back, baby.
There you go.
Well, everything's saved now. But honestly, you talked about it in the build-up here. It's about saving your season. Both these teams come in 3-6. This is the worst round robin, not just first round robin, but worst round robin results-wise that SK Telecom has ever had. 3-6 in the first round robin. Playoffs are a couple of series away, and when it comes to opponents that they can take down, they did lose to MVP in the first round. That was with Pyrian and friends, so people will say big asterisk doesn't count. It's all about today then. We'll see if SKT can perform.
Yeah, definitely the favorites coming into this one. I said in the Twitch chat, I'm feeling that 2-0 energy for them. We'll see if they can actually pull it through. I do like the gangplank for the Tal. You can just sit back, you know. Didn't take Klepto either. He's going to play it very safe, try not to die against the Kled, just farm up, sit back, and we'll see him at, 30 minutes, right? He's not playing the Darius, where he moves into the river, gets caught by 3 people, and says, oops, that was my 3rd death.
The Darius, 2-8 on the season for Tal, not been ideal. Blank has gotten in unseen to the furthest brush on top lane. Actually, no, I thought he had ducked in, but the vision was able to surprise even me. He's back there now, but I think he may have been spotted.
Yeah, just hoping that the Kled would go aggressive, but already the poke damage. Speaking of which, down here getting very low is Max, but Yondu right in position is going to save his life, so that Bang and Effort can't go in. Probably got hit by a binding into a taunt. That's the way this Morgana Shen lane is going to work.
I think SKT diagnosed that Max refusing to use his flash or cleanse was a bit suspicious in that one, so smart of them to not get caught there. Bang and Effort. The return of the Morgana, usually it was Morgana carry and a Pyke support, allowing Effort to really roam, and there's still going to be roam options with the Stand United on the Shen, but we did see Griffin lose with this exact duo in the previous game, so really, let's wait and see if there can be more proactive use of the Shen roam than Griffin were able to put out.
Getting a lot of looks towards the top side. MVP is definitely one of those teams that requires ADD to do well. We talked about how there's a couple of teams like this where they kind of rely on the top laners to work out their lanes and then they move on with that leadership. And so far, ADD in that matchup, Kled versus GP, doesn't really have any items, the Doran shield, so he's having a bit of hurt so far to start off the game.
It's pretty sick last hitting. It's Faker's 6. Remember that. This is an early equalizer.
Level 3 Max on the Soraka up against level 6 Faker. He does hold on to his equalizer. Just one of the summoners. That means Flash and Cleanse out of Max now.
Amusingly, at this point in the game, the strongest person in terms of the amount of agency they have is Blank. Blank is super powered this game because he out-skirmishes a Gragas, and he has both an equalizer from the mid lane and Gangplank ultimate shortly to back him up. Kindred's all about getting the marks and getting some backup. The backup is long range and reliable, so we can see Blank potentially at the sort of aggressive games in solo queue that have been few and far between in the 2018 season.
Yeah, currently, well, I'm going to hold that thought as they're going for a dive. Level 6 Kled hits it before Tal, taking a lot of damage though. They get the flash out of Tal here, going to hop off a Scarl. And Tal says, get the hell away from my turret. And meanwhile, Blank sees this, and he's like, okay, thanks for the free Infernal Drink.
Tried to make the play, but all they could get from Tal was flash. Didn't have his ultimate. That's why the timing was a bit narrow on the top side. Bot side.
There it is. That GP ultimate comes in. First blood going to go over to Bang on the Morgana. As easy as you like, they pick up the kill.
Really nicely done. The calculations there, very impressive. The Talia Shen duo was good for SKT earlier in the season. Now the Morgana Shen is looking good as well. Faker doesn't need to roam down. He can just poke in and get the Raptors. This New Age draw being well piloted by SK Telecom T1.
You know, I look at this, and it just feels like SKT are feeling good today, right? Look at this. Yondu trying to come on in here. He's going to get taunted up, but he does have the smite, as Blank did not. Nice try, trying to, you know, put on the pressure here with that. Effort in a little bit of trouble. See if they do focus onto him with that red buff. Blank and Faker being there with the equalizer still available means that they just want to push him out of the jungle.
Really good start everywhere for SKT. The Infernal, already a couple of marks to the Kindred. Faker went for a very defensive first item Merc. Trez doesn't want to be CC locked in a gank and just happy to overextend, go get some Raptors or the Scuttle and come back. Imagine the build will be very, very similar compared to expectation. Morellonomicon, Leandries. No double magic pen, but he'll be just fine. Buffs towards Rumble, largely around the equalizer, higher base damage and better AP scaling. There's a nice little binding comes through from Bang.
Bang's on top of it today. He looks really good, actually. His bindings have been very accurate so far. Blank coming in here, and they're looking for a repeat gank. Remember, still no cleanse on Pilot, still no flash cleanse onto Max. They were thinking about it, but decide to just play it safe. They don't know exactly where the Gragas is. They'll back off for now.
They're still winning lane really hard for the expectation of Morgana Shen. The Soraka's picked for lane. If she loses lane, very often will have very little role as watch effort. He wasn't even a flash taunt, just a sick walk up into the binding. No respect shown by Max. That's actually a huge mistake. He had no summoners and just didn't expect an engage. Well done by SK Telecom T1, and they just roll along with a nice little lead for 8 minutes.
Yeah, you can tell they really did not expect that at all. No. They're just like sitting there like, nah, there's no way they have enough damage to kill us. Forgot about GP, forgot about Morgana actually having a decent amount of base stats on her combo. And now, still waiting for the equalizer. They're going to try to gank Faker here, but he's surprisingly tanky with the Merc trades against Gragas and Swain.
Remember, the W also got a base shield buff of 20 and a little bit more ratio, so not even needing to flash. Rumble is a bruiser. Don't see him often in the mid lane outside of a long time ago. Remember watching Ocelot playing mid lane Rumble in competitive so long ago. Fun to see it here, and SKT playing around the pressure, Effort's being able to roam because he's against a no-flash Soraka. So this is SKT playing a proactive game. We mentioned Blank's empowered. He's spending the entire game counter-jungling. Everything's going as the draft suggested, so good job, SKT.
I really like these Merc trades from Faker. You know, we always talk about his mechanics and little things he does to get ahead in the lane in terms of just micro moves and stuff like that, but sometimes it's a simple Merc treads for your Smite Rumble mid, and you could just do stuff like this. The Swain, relatively weak in the lane early on, and against Rumble with Merc treads, he's just sitting there like, well, I can't do anything.
The best part about that trade is that Ian never used his never move because he knew Faker could flash kill him, so he just holds onto the cooldown and takes 400 damage for free. There's not many good decisions there for the Swain, but I love the little gamesmanship in that because you think, oh, the cooldown's up, but all about just trying to keep his life up. Look at the build here, actually. From Ian, he has gone Lost Chapter and Blasting Wand. Okay. I imagine Archangels? I guess you could go Ludens to try to have a bit more lane, but that seems strange. GLP could be considered. A lot of things to consider as top lane Resolve Tree Gangplank wins difficult lanes that might surprise you. Saw this happen back at Rift Rivals as Keen was able to win the Darius matchup, and after turning around that gank, Tal is having a whale of a time in the 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Kled, he starts Doran Shield up against the Corrupting Pot Gangplank, who has, you know, unlimited shots to the face onto ADD, hops him off a Skarl so that he can't effectively harass against Tal as well, and even though you might not expect it, you talked about the runes, and Gangplank's going to be having a lot of fun up there. Finally, some extra items coming in here for Faker, too. Speaking of which, though, Red Smites are committed to here. Blank wants to go in onto Yondu, who's unexpectedly tanky. Did have the Aftershock, actually. And uh-oh, Blank getting really close here. Isn't even going to Lamb's Respite, accepts his death, and says, here you go, take a kill.
But Faker got Raptors, so it was worth, right?
Oh, God. I didn't even, there's no words, man. Ian coming in here, trying to bait him into a fight. Faker says no. Sees Yondu coming on in.
Yeah, that was some beta testing to be done around the Rumble and Kindred, you'd have to say. not really much analysis to do about Kindred dying solo as your mid laner takes Raptors.
It's a very simple thing, too. Even excluding Faker, you're not stunned. Use Lamb's Respite, or you're going to die. Right? It's like, I guess he just didn't expect the Gragas to do that damage, but slams it down, gets the kill. Blank hopping over the wall, looking to redeem himself for an extra kill. Is not going to get it.
Right, well, we'll leave that one to one side and not ruminate more on Blank donating a kill to the enemy team. Still a lot of map control, you know? Still a lot of invading. Remember the damage buff on equalizers from level 11 onwards, and now level 11's been popped. SKT want to fight for Drakes and for Heralds. Always been the standard color point of, well, if you got Rumble, you should be able to take away the neutrals. So far, it's an Infernal that was soloed down. Faker does have a lot to work with, and the Kindred is going to be on Vision, but has this Rift Herald in the bag.
Kindred, very famously, very easily able to take this Rift Herald, and if you're not looking for just a 30-second window of time, well, we're going to get a replay of this. Sorry, Blank fans out there. We're going to have to take another look at this. Doesn't have the vision, gets hit by the cask, but here is where you use the Lamb's Respite.
Even earlier than that, why are you killing the control ward when your Rumble's going towards the Raptors? Because you have no backup. You already saw the Vision of Empire, so Swain was going to get there first. That was a disconnect, let's say.
Doesn't even, kite out of the bush, in and out of the bush. I'll hold that thought, though. Three-man gank coming in here. Stand United is not going to be able to save his life, and both teleports will be canceled as Faker finally goes down.
The magic of the charge. It means even with Flash, Faker can't get out. They're going to push mid lane here. GP and the Kindred going to have to stop this mid lane turret from going down.
I wonder who's most tilted after that Blank death. Was it us or was it Faker? Because, he couldn't have expected that, but now after being charged down the mid lane, I'm sure he's not too happy in this game so far.
Well, given that Blank is most SKT's fans' favorite whipping boy, I think the fans might actually be the most tilted, Valdez.
Yeah. By us, I meant, all the fans out here watching the game.
We kind of knew how this one went, but we'll see it on screen. They waited till Rumble walked up, they pressed the charge button, and that's a lot of CC.
Yeah, it's the never move too. Faker just not expecting this. It's hard, there's it's a new thing, the Kled, right? So people, if Kled has been in the meta for the last 3 months, people will be like, okay, I gotta be ready for the charge that's eventually gonna come for the gank. But it's like, oh yeah, Kled can do this and just gank me from down the lane, and I wasn't expecting it, so.
It's also Faker on a melee bruiser. The missing call would have been a lot earlier. It's also kind of a different scenario, like you mentioned, but the Kled has been in and out. It's not ADD's first game on the Kled for the season. He's played it a couple of times, and there's been a mid lane Kled from Ian already. And the scrims are kind of Kled every game from what you hear. Clearly people are playing it. SKT halted after a very good early game as the disconnect between mid lane and jungle has cost them in a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Still, as the game goes on, they have Tal, who is hitting his farm numbers very well. Good laning phase for him against the Kled. Wonder who's going to be getting the Black Shield in the team fights. I guess Kindred, if Kindred can get a couple more items. For now, it might be one of GP or Rumble. First equalizer from Faker wasn't really one to inspect too closely, but gotta mention that Equalize is not the easiest ability to use to its full maximum. It is Faker, but it's definitely a new pick for him.
Blank and Tal coming in here, greeting out for the blue and the Gromp mark, and they might be punished for it. The cask out. Oh, but the nice escape there from Blank. Using the cask, just hops over to the blasting plant and says, see you later. I'm out of here.
Tal also going to be able to get away. Important they don't die in this scenario. ADD is still around. He doesn't have charge yet, but it's coming up soon.
Yeah, Blank not able to run away here. Level 9, no more Lamb's Respite is going to be shut down by the Kled. Add another kill there as Tal was trapped as well. Faker a little bit slower than Ian to get over to the top side, and that means that's 2 kills and the turret in the mid lane.
Map rotation from MVP is the most impressive part. They chase on, they're able to get that mid lane turret. ADD can even pick up the minions under turret, and this turret will not die. This could be a game breaker of 2 kills and 2 turrets.
I'm just grimacing here. It's so hard to watch this. We talked about, the early game was really smooth.
Yeah.
They looked great for the first 7 minutes of this game. Looked like SKT was on a roll, and then all of a sudden, things fall apart. And the Rift Herald was used in the base. Looks like it was about to run out of time. Unfortunate timing there. But yeah, they come in here trying to get the blue and the mark on the Gromp, and it's just a little bit too deep here.
I gotta ask though, where is the communication as a 3-man unit? Because I feel like there needs to be a call to bring Faker up earlier so the equalizer's in range. Instead, there's a focus on the mid lane and on a 2-man invade.
Just run away.
Blank can just fully disengage from this, but doesn't respect another turret dive. It's Kled, so he has the ability to be turned on and not be going down at any point because he can reset aggro. It's a bit too easy for the side of MVP.
Yeah. Just falling apart at the seams a little bit here is SKT. The game isn't over as MVP is only 700 gold ahead, but definitely it's worrying stuff here. You know, this isn't just your normal, okay, a couple of mistakes, and a couple of kills going. This is 2 turrets, 2 kills, not including the earlier mistakes as well. So definitely worrying here for the SKT fans.
The weird thing about SKT fans is I feel like there's 2 groups of SKT fans. There's the SKT fans who watch the games at Worlds, who are a bit more casual about the LCK. It's a hard time zone. You completely understand it. Who say, well, they're not as good as they were last year. When will they get back to last year? And there's the people who've watched all year, and they just ask the question of when will they get better? And I think you can never answer the people that are looking at, you know, the more casual fan is looking for them to be SKT from last year, because they're not. Anyone who watched the games this year understands that SKT don't have the talent and have taken a long time also to pick up on the macro and the meta. They're getting better, and you can look at the early game and say for those fans it was a much better early game, and then those mistakes that have come up again and again are going to be what they look at. You can definitely match the expectation, get better, get more solid, become a 4 through 6 team if you're SKT. But SKT don't have the ability to be one of the best teams in Korea based on the majority of 2018.
Yeah, still working on it. And a couple of the culprits that the SKT fans have been calling out a lot. Tall and Blank having a rough start to this one. We'll see if they can turn it around here. It is still pretty early on in this game, only 19 minutes in, and as I mentioned, only a very small lead for MVP right now. He's still got level 14 Faker on the Rumble. We'll see what he can do as this game moves along.
Problem for the Rumble in a game like this is that the battlefield is going to change a lot. And what I mean by that is there's a cask. There's a lot of ability for MVP to disengage from burst damage and move elsewhere. You think of Ezreal, Arcane Shift, the charge. It's very hard for people to chill on the equalizer, which is always the ideal case, right? You think of a Mumu ult into equalizer, what a Wombo. Wombo potential is so hard against MVP, who are able to reset that battlefield, and thus actually hitting an equalizer that changes a fight is going to be very unreliable for the free-farmed Rumble.
Yeah, definitely will be rough. Lots of magic resist coming across the board already. He just finished up for the Gragas, as well as it looks like the Abyssal Mask coming in here for the Swain. So that build path kind of explored as we moved across. It was the Ludens into some extra magic resist. So no Rod of Ages, nothing else here for our Swain.
So what MVP's next move is, they will get control over the 3rd Drake of the game, another Infernal spawn. Now this is the sort of terrain that the Equalizer can potentially set up something good around. They still have the GP, Kindred, and Rumble. Watching here, MVP, they need to have their wits around them. This is the sort of area SKT's comp can prosper in.
Yeah, Ian waiting nearby with the TP. There it is, trying to get onto Max, but Blank is going to be engaged upon. That's Stand United going to help him out. Nice Lamb's Respite for now. Dragon will go over to MVP, though. ADD getting super low. Did he go too low, though? Blank is going to go down now as Ian shows up to the fight and says, hello, I'm Swain, and I'm really powerful. They kill Bang and get the Dragon, and MVP win that one.
Good illustration of the problems for SKT. It was a good start to the fight. It looked like they'd be able to get some kills, but they can't finish anyone off. The Drake is soloed down by Pilot in the backline. That's why he wasn't involved for the beginning of the fight. They disengage, they get the objective, and now they want a bot lane turret as well.
Yeah. That front line for MVP is really scary to deal with. You're looking at a Kled right in your face, and then the Swain shows up later. Kled, you get him super low, but then he just hops back on Skarl, and all that wasted damage is for naught. And you're even losing the Drake at the same time.
Watching the replay here, SKT take their time to go in to actually engage on this. They want to just take Max out of the fight, which they're successful in doing. We mentioned equalizer damage. It's on Yondu. Doesn't really matter. It's about 300 damage there. That's a big tool down, and they're not actually able to finish off anyone as ADD gets his mount back. And from there, it's just every man for himself on the side of SKT.
It was a really good follow-up engage by Yondu. The second that Blank hopped over the wall, Yondu's just there right with the charge forward and the flash to make sure that he gets that. I think he got a second stun onto Faker too, so it's a good job, good response out of him. Really nice timing for the Swain to come in, and Pilot just low-key doing the most damage there in that fight. He was totally protected the whole time.
Been able to hit his items timings very early and going for a 3-item build, not a tier, into delaying the power spike. Blank is unfortunately, after a great start, really delayed on items, working for a slow rapid-fire cannon as his second item, and already a locket. So Yondu's going for the most team utility early. Blank is, of course, focusing on his own build. There's still team fights this game that SKT can win. And the good news for them is largely on this man. Tal has had a really happy time farming and should be at 2 items on his next back.
Yeah. You mentioned that locket. It's one of the better ways to have your tank jungler be a big part of the game. Speaking of which, he's back here, forces the flash out of Bang just for free, essentially. Uses his cask, but not the longest cooldown on that one. So, but yeah, he uses all the extra gold from the 3 kills and the 1 assist to just pick up a low-key locket. He's like, hey, by the way, I'm tanky, I'm in your front line, and I'm helping my team.
Rocket, one of those ways to answer the equalizer, of course. Rocket changed many times, not going to be as good a late-game insurance, but just built here to try to circumvent the time when SKT's comp is the strongest. When it comes to the 5v5, I'd say it's now.
I like this ring around the rosy from Tal and ADD. They both see each other. They both don't know that they're seen.
See how ADD and the rest of MVP move up. They're not worried about SKT's Baron threat to the tune of Pilot. Actually looking for a gank onto the GP to help out.
It's a true shot barrage if things really got out of hand and SKT was in a position to get the Baron. But yeah, just looking for that slow gank on in here. And I suppose with Pilot not being seen, one of the guys you want farming, Tal gets the call to say, hey, well, this guy's missing, you should be careful.
Yeah, good top laner sense. I completely agree, Valdos. I was going to get to the same point of, well, if there's 3 lanes pushing in and Pilot's not on any of them, where is he? Is a very, very pertinent question. So smartly done by Tal. He disengages. We're seeing Blank corralled into his own jungle. I believe he's at 2 marks at the moment. So 2 away from getting the all-important 4-mark territory and increasing his attack range by 75.
Yeah. I mean, we saw what happened the last time he tried to pick up the mark. Couple of deaths for himself and Tal, so he's been called back by his team, saying stop going so aggressive, especially after dying, so Danny will go. Couple of control wards, because 2 is better than 1, I suppose.
Now MVP control the map, and we were talking about how much we liked SKT's draft. The expectation that I said a couple of times was Blank invades, and there's either an equalizer or a Gangplank ultimate to follow on up. So you lose the skirmishing against the Kindred, and then there's also the ult, so you lose your life. There's the theory there, so you get free marks, you take over the enemy jungle. You always have tempo, so the Baron and other objectives are easy to pick up because you're always afraid of the Kindred popping up and killing you. Issue here is we saw multiple times Blank dying solo on the top side, Rumble not rotating first, so the equalizer wasn't in range when they were trying to steal the blue. It's so hard to know who's at fault for that. I think Blank was sloppy around clearing a ward. Wow, Bang almost died. He still will die.
Yeah, he's dead totally. Just trying to go 1v1 without his flash up against Pilot. Problems about, and the 3-man charge on in from Yondu is going to force that Lamb's Respite out of Blank. He's going to be able to hop out, but almost gets hit by that Mystic shot. MVP styling on SKT now.
Pilot especially just did so much damage that wasn't respected by Bang. I guess he was going to die to something, but
I don't think so.
I don't know, Valdes.
I don't think so.
Well,
maybe we'll get the
on the
replay.
Baron.
Yeah.
Nice TP coming in. This is from GP.
Yeah, they have the Rumble and the GP ultimate to try to layer for that extra damage. We'll see if MVP does respect it right now. Max taken a lot of damage. Considering going in, here comes the charge actually onto Tall. He's going to be locked down and he cannot flash out of that one. So they start the Baron and they get an extra kill.
Good call from MVP, you might say, but the Baron's low, why don't you finish it? Faker was behind 5 levels up on Smite, so he would have had the early secure. We saw Cho'Gath steal it earlier. This would have been similar. Let's watch the replay here, as this is just 2 Qs basically being his entire doom. Bang goes down. Will we get the information as to why Effort's ult was used?
It was a fantastic Vision of Empire, by the way,
Yeah.
out of Swain 2 times in a row. Ian, you can see he's got that practice on the champion, so he's not burning. Okay.
I was going to say.
Oh, but he was late,
I know,
actually.
that's the worst part. He was actually late. He should have died to the redemption. What does that tell you about us? Even that play. What do we say about this game? If played perfectly, if played with even good communication, this comp should be very powerful. The rumble on the back foot, the disconnect between Blankenthal and Faker has overall led to so many moments like that where clearly you can see the communication is reactive at best. At that absolute best. That's the nicest way I can put it.
Yeah, thank you for being nice. Well, they're looking for a kill on Ayandu, who says, I know I'm on a control ward. Nice couple of 0 damages there. Morgana and Shen weren't really doing anything in that fight, of course. Just getting caught was Bang. And Pilot mentioned how he's actually quite strong for MVP. He's been one of the brighter shining lights, I guess you could say, for MVP amongst some of their failures this season.
2018 has been a very kind year for Pilot. He's been very good. He had a lot built against him, coming into a lineup that was never going to be challenging, but he has, like you mentioned, separated himself from whatever MVP's fortunes were. This team could go ninth into 9th, and you'd still say Pilot's stock has gone way up, so that is a compliment to him. MVP so far in a really good spot. They would love to do the Baron, but the turn here and the potential steal from Faker is tricky. Even when they walk up, remember, a level 17 equalizer on a free-farmed Rumble has to be respected. So for now, at least, closing the game is proving pretty tricky for the side of MVP.
Yeah, 3 items with so much penetration and double smite. With the higher level smite is just way too much. So what will they do in terms of pushing their advantage? So far, the GP has been doing quite well. I just, I don't know.
I love watching your reaction to the players.
Yeah, I try not to be mean to SKT, but sometimes they're mean to themselves by showing it off on the screen.
It's just such a weird team to talk about because SKT are not one of the 5 best teams in Korea. But to some people, that's rude and uncalled for, or they won so many world championships, and I just say, have you watched their games? They're really not that good. And they can get better, and they have gotten better, but now Tal is going to get dead.
Oh, he is so baited into this one. Has the Sterix pop, but look at how much damage the Ezreal does. He even commits to a flash. He thinks he's getting out of this one. I don't know what to tell him.
Yeah.
He's not going to get out of this one. He is dead meat, as there was no point to flash there as well. Just desperation at this point, as another point on the board there for the Kled.
Yes, that happened, fellas.
Yeah.
I would love for SKT to reach Old Glory, to be a strong team. They have the biggest fan base. If anything, I should be biased for their success because we get more stream viewers when they play.
Of course.
But they're really, unfortunately, at a scenario where they don't have a top laner that is of the old caliber. Marin, Duke, always strong. Even Huni always had pressure. They don't have that. Their jungle situation is still not resolved. And that's why you get games like this where they will be competitive against teams that are better than them, but they will not be consistently strong over 18 best-of-3s. And that's just the reality of the lineup. If they're able to show new performance levels on their players, that's great. If they were able to close out the early game here, that would be great. But does it mean that SKT will be the SKT of previous years? The answer is no.
Might be a couple of rebuilding years, We don't have it like traditional sports where drafts and rotating, retirements and players. We're not there yet, but certainly some of the players from SKT have kind of rotated out here. Everybody's missing Peanut, Huni now, even when there were some haters of them amongst you know, some of the shortcomings of making it second in Worlds. Even that wasn't enough for some of the fans, and the blame was abound for many different members who then eventually left the team and left SKT in this position, actually, which people are beginning to realize is a lot worse.
You just look back at the tweets that I made, that you saw plenty of people make in the offseason, was this roster will not challenge. And that has been correct. This roster doesn't have the ability to challenge. I think they will approach 2019 very differently is kind of my way of looking at it.
You'd have to hope so. Smite comes in here onto the Scuttle Crab, so at least they'll have a nice amount of vision to help out and see whether or not MVP will go for the Baron, which we mentioned will be hard up against SKT.
Oh, the best news story here, plenty of farm. Stormrazor completed, but ADD is so big on the Kled this time. Pilot just loves the piggyback because he doesn't respect SKT ever starting Baron, so it's more about ganking than actually making a Baron play.
Yeah, Ezreal very mobile, of course. Once he hits high levels of CDR, he's just hopping around the Rift. He also has an ability to help out if he's late, you know, do a nice big AoE ultimate, which, by the way, is even stronger because he did eventually pick up the Archangel Staff. And when you're this far ahead and you're this strong, I'd say why not when you're playing Ezreal?
Lane assignment against Bang is so painful for Bang. He doesn't have any ability to do much there. All right, Faker overheated for now. It's going to have to be a disengage where the equalizer's even up.
Well, here comes Kled. He always has the ability to engage on in there. Look at that damage from Pilot, though, on the Ezreal. Just knocks everybody out of the fight. And Ian says, go home, guys. You cannot fight against us. And so even though no kills come in, a big one fight there for MVP.
It is a win, but a lot is contributed to it. A lot is invested, and they don't get any objectives from it apart from eventually this inner turret. It wasn't an ideal setup for SKT. Going to back away for now. This game is still very competitive. The SK Telecom could definitely win this game in spite of an 8-1 kill score and me going on a long diatribe about SKT's candidacy for LCK Summer 2018. ADD probably should recall and get his mount back.
It looks like they want to make this Elder spawn because they're having so much trouble about getting the Baron. They're like, well, we got to get some other objective that will help us get a Baron and push this game along. They don't want to be dealing with, you know, farmed up level 18 GP and Rumble, and even that Kindred, which will eventually come along.
Anywhere else to draw SKT to? Because right now, like you mentioned, very difficult to get the Baron control here from MVP. Tal will reach his items eventually, as we're seeing. Gets his second upgrade on the Silver Serpents, has the Stormrazor for a while. I imagine Guardian Angel going to be the next item built here on the Gangplank. Let's see if MVP can actually find a way to move the game forward. They've taken basically every easy objective as Ian, taking a lot of free damage.
Good trade there from Blank, but just one step too far ahead. He just barely gets off that Lamb's Spite. Look at how tanky the Gragas is, but they finally kill him with the help of Faker. Here's the counter engage, though. Bang in a lot of trouble here. Nowhere for him to go. Now they're going to pull in this Rumble. Faker surprisingly tanky on the front side here. Is forced to flash that. Never moved, though. Here comes ADD trying to follow up, and Pilot, strong as ever, doing that consistent damage, not able to pick up another kill, though.
SKT did a good job of splitting up the members of MVP, bursting down Yondu, and Pilot didn't have free auto attacks at any point in the fight. That was one of the best case scenarios for SKT in a 5v5 right now. No objectives for them to take. Elder has not spawned, and the Baron is too tricky. Watching the replay here, they try to all in on Blank, but they don't pop him. He can pop the Lamb's Respite. And in the team fight reset here, you notice just outside of the AoE, could never get into the Lamb's Respite. It was a nice first pick there for SKT.
Yeah, Bank, you could tell he was spamming his Archie, just trying not to be killed there in the end. And even hopping forward very confidently there was Blank, trying to push ADD away from his buddy Tal.
MVP have not been able to move the game forward. In the last few minutes, they've struggled in scenarios like this before, where they've gotten a lead but not been able to close out. Look at the damage numbers. So much damage on SKT's side. It's only effort as anything resembling a tank. The damage, even from Morgana's Tormented Soil, does tick over time.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it before, this game is not over. If you get a really good engage from SKT, like a Morgana ultimate into the back line. Maybe you can burst the Soraka with all your burst damage, GP ultimate, Rumble ultimate. You can get to the back line and perhaps win these fights.
Pilot has cleanse, but not quite as Seraph's yet, so even he is someone who potentially could be burst down.
Blank here. Not going to happen.
Tar will keep split pushing. So many items onto ADD. You don't often see damage and tankiness on a Kled, but definitely reached that point. Very low on the armor as he tried to build for team fights instead. Doesn't want to die to the equalizer, so he goes for the adaptive helm. 3 control wards around, but Shen has actually been able to sneak one in. That does give him a lot of information. Let's watch this all in.
It's really hard to get away from the Kled here. You notice that AD is always popping those barrels, and he still has Skarl, the cannon barrage coming on in, as well as the Wish coming in, but Effort using his own support ultimate, so used by both sides, and nobody dies.
In the Shen ultimate's pretty nice for the side of MVP. Here we go.
Pilot's like, you want to try to get on top of me? I'll get on top of you, as Bang, forced to use that, is going to shoot the True Shot Barrage wide, and Pilot taking a ton of damage there. Ian all alone on the top side, and they're chasing him down. There's the slow. Cask is going to shoot them back, or at least zone them out for now. As MVP, you can see if the fight doesn't go perfectly, they can definitely be taken away.
Definitely sloppy on both sides. Neither is able to get a big advantage in this scenario. More recalls means that SKT does have first control onto the Baron. Infinite scaling of the gangplank should be a growing concern here. The side of MVP in game number 1. Pilot, like you mentioned, was shut down in that fight, didn't cleanse, but had to use his flash. Will recall, working his way towards his last item. He's got it. It's a Guardian Angel.
That's going to be quite nice for him. You could see that Tal, even though it was a bumpy ride to level 18 and 4 items, he has made it, and he is Gangplank. So he is going to be scary, as this game has slowly but surely made it to about 40 minutes. And at this point, I mentioned it before, there are a lot of damage sources and ways to burst down the back line for SKT. So if they can communicate, get things together here in this game, it's definitely not a definitively lost one for them just yet.
Again, it feels, based on the kill score, like it's been one-sided, but SKT have kept up in the gold in a very impressive way. Hasn't been any significant gold lead for MVP at any point in the game. Execution may have been better for MVP, but only slightly. They have not been monstrously the better team in this game. Usually, the marksman comp is the one that overcomes the game goes on, but Blank does do a surrogate job of a marksman, and Gangplank also for a melee champion has plenty of consistent damage. So definitely no guarantees about MVP as the game goes on, especially because they haven't found a way to even start up the Baron in the past 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's weird. MVP is this team that loves to fight. They love to go for 50-50 Barons, throw caution to the wind, and just do it. Speaking of which, ADD in a little bit of trouble, but he is Kled.
They're going back in now.
Oh, here comes the charge. He's going to get on top of Effort and run onto Blank. He wants to get the Lamb's Respite, and that he does. He's going to hop off the Skarl, but they get that big ultimate. Bang! Trying to get that ultimate off himself. Is going to be able to do that Zonya's, but he's getting super low, and Blank nearly goes down. In the end, the Morgana will, but they take away Swain, which is a big part of their team right now. And the rest of everybody will go away. So just 1-for-1 trading Swain for the Morgana.
And MVP just can't get any value out of Pilot. He's very defensive in that fight despite having Guardian Angel and his cleanse up. So SKT were able to fight front to back easier than MVP were. Shouldn't be like that. That's how it was. Elder is on the map and not defended. So it seems like MVP just want to take this one for free.
I was saying before, SKT, they found a way to stop MVP from being really reckless by taking the Smite mid laner for Faker, but now it's a really weird spot. ADD spots this. The True Shot Barrage doesn't hit anyone. Would have done a ton of damage.
They actually disengage off the Elder. This is the wrong decision from MVP.
Man. They don't even have it, and they're going to be too late. That's going to go down. No steal for ADD, and MVP, oh boy. This game is getting Fiesta-y here as MVP decide, hey, let's give him the Baron and not take the Elder.
It's a really terrible call by MVP. They had the Elder at 4,000. It never feels good to trade. They'll feel like they're strong enough and shouldn't have to trade. But just give it up for free. They're not going to take it afterwards. They think, oh, we'll go stop them and take the Elder. They both underrate how much damage and how much secure double smite level 18 Rumble has. It's really, really poor. And now SKT could just get both.
Yeah. I mean, this is easy. No way for MVP to get together as 5 and try to contest this. Priority on the map was to SKT. The charge is going to come in. It's going to go wide, and Faker will pick up the Elder with his own smite. Kled awkwardly says, oh, just passing by. I'm going to run away on the backside. Effort still is going to shadow him over here, but SKT, a couple of mistakes from MVP, and all of a sudden, SKT in the lead in this one.
Absolutely. SKT now have a huge lead when it comes to what they've picked up. The Elder burn on already a high damage comp. Means even Tormented Soil's doing outrageous damage, proccing the true damage burn from there. MVP would need a significant outplay to make this work, and they don't have the charge, so seeming very unlikely. See how much SKT can get. Remember, they've not even taken the mid lane outer turret at 42 minutes in.
Still struggling to do so, even with both buffs, as they're still respectful. They know especially Pilot is just a monster right now with red buff. They're not going to get in range of another great engage from Yondu, who, by the way, has been having a really fantastic game on the Gragas. So they respect that. They're going to wait for the cannon wave to come on in, and now they'll go for the turret.
Check this out. How many more easy objectives can they get? They have double buffs running for 1 minute 20 still. Still a really good spot for them. GP split away.
If you're talking about that burn damage, just the one tick of the Tormented Soil did a lot, actually, to the Ezreal and Soraka.
Nice big minion wave will slow down Tar, but remember, he has the ability to instantly commit to a fight with his ultimate and provide something. You look at the lineup and you know that Siege is very tricky for SKT. They don't have a lot of range on their side.
This definitely does feel like a game that could make it to 60 minutes. Maybe our first one, perhaps, of LCK Summer.
How about 94 minutes to dream, Valdez?
Hey, I guess anything's possible when SKT's in the game. They were there the last time the 94-minute game happened. No Jin Air this time.
Not today. Items starting to roll in. We're getting to 6-item territory on multiple people. Faker's Equalizer does an obscene amount of damage now. Death cap has been finished for a while. And Pilot been damage capped for a long time as well. Only the Swain, when it comes to the big carries, really has a full item to go.
He was 007, by the way, before that last fight where he got 1 kill and 1 death. I was kind of disappointed about that. I felt like maybe I should mention it.
He's Flame Horizoned as well, so that's a less good of a moniker compared to the James Bond.
Poor Swain.
I think this trend will increase, though, in terms of game times. Does feel like 40 minutes going to get closer and closer to the average game time in Korea, with the death timers in the early game and the stopwatch usage getting higher and higher.
Trying to steal this mark here.
All right, we're going as well.
Okay, the charge. And look at that damage already from the Ezreal. He gets on top of Blank and forces that Lavish's bite. Okay, everybody into the pit. Can they do it? Max goes down first. So they get the healing away. And SKT trying to do that damage, but Ian is still alive in the back line, and Pilot is there with him. They do not have enough damage to pull through. Tal's going to go down alongside Blank and Bang, and SKT will win.
They're in a ward. They're trying to get out. Let's see what MVP want to do. Their decision-making hasn't been great.
Yeah, MVP will win is what I mean. They're on the chase now, looking for it. Nice slow there from Faker, but...
Why is Pilot chasing? Is a question I don't know the answer to. He should be with the minion wave, but they're getting the bloodlust here.
Well, that's MVP, right? They don't really care about the objectives. They just want to get kills. They just want to fight. Yondu actually having trouble. Look at that gigantic shield from Faker. Only lasts about 2 seconds. But
Faker has a lot of turnaround damage, but you have to imagine Pilot will close this out eventually.
Hey, he actually misses a couple of skill shots, but the Gragas is there. Had it been a one-on-one, maybe would have been a little bit more interesting. But in the end, I mean, they get the 1 kill. They might have been able to push a little bit more with the Pilot.
Chasing for kills can sometimes be the right move. We've actually SKT earlier this season delaying a death timer, got them a Baron, and also got them a outer turret and bot and an inhibitor. But in this game where nothing's on the Rift, it wasn't going to be big. Let's talk about the team fight first, though. Big difference here is it looks like the Equalizer is going to win the fight, but Pilot has no threat on him at all and does obscene damage. He's a ranged marksman with full build. So because Pilot is full health, it was clear that MVP was always going to win the fight.
All the other SKT members just distracted in the front line. Ian took a lot of damage too, and at the end of the fight, he's basically full health. That's Swain for you, right? He's sitting here on basically full items.
Oh, that sounded like a charge again.
Yeah, he's coming in from behind, and uh-oh, Bang. Does have his flash, but oh, he's a little bit too late on that one. Here comes ADD, and see you later. Eventually, Zhonya's his cube, but it's not going to be good enough, and that means no Morgana, and that should be at least the inhibitor.
This could be the close of the game here. MVP have the Ezreal. Effort in the back line, won't be able to stop the minion wave, but he will be able to stop the next one. That's why Max is annoyed with him.
Yeah, Max can't do it himself.
It's the right move by Effort. If he stops the minion wave, he stops the game ending. Still 45 seconds, though. We're 46 minutes in, so the death time is comically long.
What a game this has been. Back and forth. SKT looked like they got back on the mistakes of MVP into the lead, but then one fight that did not go their way, and all of a sudden MVP looked unstoppable here. No Baron, no anything, just a massive push up in the top side with that minion wave. Will he use the equalizer for that? No, just a barrel. And the ZP ultimate. Faker not going to use his cooldowns. That means that they will lose the turret in the end.
They haven't taken the inhibitor yet, though. Still 10 seconds on Bang. This will be their first inhibitor. Actually, no, mid lane one went down. So 2 inhibitors to MVP. Successful push this time.
That's really unfortunate. Just the power of Kled, I suppose. That's part of the reason why we're seeing him more often here. Didn't have the easiest time up against the Gangplank early on in the lane, up against that grasp for the Gangplank, and he fell behind on CS, but you get late game and the enemy team just has to respect it from such a long range. You can't walk too far down the lane or you're going to get punished, just like Bang did.
Charge still up. Again, amazingly, it's 600 gold. This game actually could still hinge on a team fight. SKT could still win. Doesn't feel that that's a very likely outcome, and yet it could definitely happen. It's really about execution, and so far MVP's execution has been very poor in the mid to late game. SKT in the mid game also made a lot of mistakes. It has felt like 7th versus 8th when it comes to the quality of the match. It's been a shocker, Valdez, to be honest. But we're still ready for a super play. We're still ready for a best of 3.
Well, looking for a charge there. Nice engage onto Blank once again by Yanju. Bang is going to have to get that ultimate down with the nice Zhonya's, but down he just goes. The Lamzer Spite is not in range. Very unfortunate for them, and that means Blank will go down too, alongside Efforts, and Ian is not going to die with his own Zhonya's pilot. Just free deal in the back line, and that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. MVP in 49 minutes will be able to take down SKT. It was a weird and wonderful match. This first game was, but MVP, certainly the deserving winning team here tonight. Gonna take the Nexus turrets, and that will be game number 1 going to MVP.
Really nice game by Pilot. His Ezreal